So 10 years of the Stanford Longevity Design Challenge, and I'm happy to say that I've been part of it for the full 10 years. So as Laura Karstensen alluded to this morning, this started out with an idea. You know, actually Russ Hill and she and I were sitting in her office, and Russ was talking about, well, what would you really like to try, and what would you like to motivate? And you know, this was back at the beginning of my tenure with the center, and we were talking a lot about awareness and a lot about trying to get people to care about this space. It's hard to believe it now because you see, you know, headlines everywhere about longevity and longer lifespans. And, you know, this is now kind of the mainstream conversation. Well, 10, 12 years ago, it was not. We were really trying to throw up a flag to say our population is aging in ways that are, you know, unprecedented, not only in our lifetimes, but in all of human history. And this is going to be a major change, not just for the people that are aging, but for everybody that lives in that society. We also knew that it was going to take a lot of work and a lot of ideas to try to make changes to society to make all of this a good thing, right? I mean, the fact that a lot of the articles that you'll see about population aging start with, oh my gosh, what a disaster it's going to be. It's going to bankrupt our society. What are we going to do with all these old people? And that was never the approach of the Center on Longevity. It was the idea that we now see the majority of our population getting to live to be, you know, 80, 90 years old. I mean, this is one of the great accomplishments in human history, and people were depressed about it, right? And so we didn't want to think of it that way, but we also knew there was going to be a lot of change needed, a lot of ideas, and a lot of that was going to have to not just come from the aged part of the population. Now, I'm a mechanical engineer by training. I worked in industry for 20-ish years in various engineering roles. And one of the things that engineers are often told along the way is to design for what they know. And if you ask an 18, 19, 21-year-old designer to design for what they know, it's often not longevity and aging, right? It's a little bit of a sell. And so we said we want to do something that's going to engage younger people in understanding that this change is about not just older people, but it's about them as well. And that not only is it a change, but it's an opportunity. There's going to be a lot of business opportunities. There's going to be a lot of chances to impact the world. So we had this idea, and we said, how do we get more young people involved? Well, Russ, yes, Russ. Russ Hill's over here. Russ has been a supporter of the center for a very long time. As you can tell, it's been 10 years, and you can just look at him and know that, right, Russ? But Russ said, okay, well, what happens if I can give you a little bit of money to get you started on this? And you know, we said, well, that's a great idea. Let's do maybe a Stanford Design Challenge that we'll get all the Stanford students to participate in. And then he kind of said, no, you know, we should at least be able to do this nationally, right? And so we started drawing that up, but then he was also good enough to say, look, I don't want to just put my name on the bottom of this thing and, you know, be the person who funded it. Go ahead and you do whatever you need to do to get more people involved and get more funders involved. And so we did that. And I'll talk a little bit about sponsorship in a minute, but the nice part was that I was able to go out and raise money from a lot of different places and really make this a global design challenge and be able to bring people in from around the world. And it's become really the hallmark of the challenge is that this is really one of the truly global challenges that we see. So each year we chose a topic, and we tried to choose something that, this is always a great debate within the center about how you choose topics year to year. And we've always tried to choose things that are, one, about longevity, obviously, but two, something that, you know, people are thinking about in the world. So you see things along the way like lessons from the pandemic, right? Or design for affordability. I mean, these are things that were kind of in the vernacular and in the discussion. We also always tried to choose topics that allowed more than just one segment of students to participate. So we didn't ever want to choose the topic that could only allow medical students to participate or only allow engineers to participate. We always wanted to choose something that was specific enough that you could actually see yourself making something, but broad enough that it could come from you know, almost any discipline. So as the topics went year to year, you see on the left-hand side, the number of entries grew as well. And that is a credit to a lot of people at the Center on Longevity, to a lot of the people that have helped us along the way, that we did start with 50 or so the first couple of years. And then we started to slowly grow and grow. And then about 2019, things really started to take off. About that time, we reviewed where our contestants were coming from. And we realized that we were getting quite a few from the U.S. We had partially thanks to Shah had really gotten a lot from sort of the Asian direction, but we did have a very large African-sized hole in the map. And so about 2019 or 20, we really tried to put some focus on making sure that the students in Africa knew about this, and their response was phenomenal. We've since had, I want to say, Marie's probably out there somewhere, I want to say we probably had as many entrants from Africa as we did from anywhere, maybe except the US now. And so that's grown, which is fantastic to see. We've had a couple, actually 2 winners 2 years in a row from Nigeria, one of which you're going to hear from today. So that was fantastic. But overall, this is what our map looks like. So over that 10 years, we've grown from our little challenge here in Palo Alto to 69 countries across the world, which I challenge most of you to name 69 countries across the world off the top of your head. So it's been truly fantastic in the sense of just getting to meet and to interact with these young people from around the world, all of whom actually really care about what they're doing. It's just been one of the highlights of my career, certainly. So thank you, all of you that participate, because you've really made this what it is. Just a couple of things we've noticed along the way. So this is really the unsanctioned Ken's five learnings from 10 years of running the Stanford Center on Longevity Design Challenge. Laura alluded to this morning. We have been completely reset in terms of what designing for longevity means. It means just vastly different places or different things in different places. And to give you some examples, the winner from 2 years ago, I guess, was a team from Nigeria that had thought about ride sharing in an environment where there was very poor cell service. And this was about being able to longevity-ready cities, right? And so how are we going to allow people to take advantage of these things? And we saw a design come out that was about building a ride-hailing platform around a street light that nobody in Palo Alto is going to think about that design, right? And so we have just gotten to see so many things through the years that just have made us understand that how you age in New York and Tokyo and Beijing or rural China or in Africa are very different things, and there's just a whole world of possibilities. Going along with that is there's just a lot of different ways that you can affect longevity. I mean, longevity in some ways is life. So, you're getting the opportunity to design for life, which leaves a lot of open space. And so we've seen ride-sharing platforms, we've seen apps, we've seen card games, we've seen a tool to allow older people in rural China to continue to plant and grow their own food over time. It's just been phenomenal in how many ways innovation affects longevity. We've been just astounded by the global response to this, and just the idea that it's longevity and aging populations are just something that is everywhere in the world. And certainly, you saw it in a lot of places like, Korea and Japan first, as they really realized how their populations were aging. Then Western Europe, and China's aging very quickly now. And it's just something that is truly a global phenomenon, and it's been great to see designers from around the world participate. Which brings me to my next point. We've even had discussions at times in the judges' room about saying, well, should we lean a little bit more towards if there is a designer coming from a place where they might not have had the resources of a Stanford student, or somebody coming from a richer school, should we be thinking about that? And we kind of never have. We've always thought we're really going to judge designs on their own merit, designs on their own impact. And what we have learned really has been, it really just doesn't matter where people are coming from. Good design is good design, and we see fantastic ideas from all over the globe. And we've seen that in our winners. I mean, we've had winners from the US and from Asia and from Africa, and India. We really have seen that good ideas come from everywhere, and that when you give designers a level playing field to compete on, they do great. And so just congratulations to all of you who've managed that. And finally, this is something that's near and dear to my heart as a mechanical engineer. Physical design still matters. Living in the Silicon Valley, everything's an app, right? And apps are great. And I think that there's a place where it's changed it's changed all our lives. Social media apps, dating apps, everything is on an app. But there's also, outside of the world of bits, there's a world of atoms, and designing in the world of atoms still matters, and it seems to really matter in this world. I mean, you'll hear in a little bit from Ricardo Gomez from San Francisco State University, and I think your students have been just exemplary in physical design and things that are really cool. I mean, we saw a couple of years ago a design called City Cart, which was just a combination of I guess it would be a shopping cart, walker, urban assault vehicle that could just kind of take its way, find its way through the city and allow people to live longer and live on their own in a city. And it's been really fun to see that physical design. Now, as I mentioned, one of the reasons that we've been able to have this global level of competition has been our corporate sponsorship. And it's difficult to want to read out all of these sponsors, but over the 10 years, this is our sponsor list. And it ranges in, it's not just aging services. It's consumer products. You see Procter & Gamble, you see Target, you see Honda, you see Airbnb, Orange Telecom, Qualcomm. It's a recognition that the kind of work you all are doing it kind of impacts all industries, and everybody is realizing that there's an opportunity here in an aging population, and they need to be part of it, and they need to understand it. From the perspective of our participants, it's been wonderful to have this level of engagement from these various companies. It just, it brings a richness to the competition that just doesn't exist when you don't have Jane from Honda sitting here, in the room, next to Todd from Eschaton, who's in aging services. It brings a group together that just doesn't come together. And I think you've seen it both in our sponsors and in some of our students, that getting to know each other as a result of this process is a network that persists. You'll see two students come up here in a minute who happened to meet at the design challenge and now have gone through the process together, and they're lifelong friends now. And I just hope that you also take the time to meet the people that you're in this with. Finally, while we have never claimed that our goal was to see spinoffs when companies started, and our goal is really to get people involved and get people understanding how to design for longevity. We've had some of our students have just phenomenal impact. The reason you see yellow and blue up there is the designs in yellow, or the companies in yellow, are the people you're going to hear from in our challenge. But we've had Eat Well Dishware, which you heard a little from Shah on one of the videos that you can go buy on Amazon, but also sits in the Smithsonian Design Museum. Metatopia is a very interesting one. This was a group out of Istanbul that designed an application for trying to match older people with activities. They found out all their older people wanted meditation and wanted mindfulness activities, and they pivoted, and they became this company called Metatopia, which is now the second largest meditation app downloaded on the Apple Store and on Android. Luna Lights is again one of these great kind of simple designs. It's on the airplane, it's your lights lead to the exit. Well, in this case, it's these lights lead to the bathroom at night, is the way to describe it. And they are now, have three rounds of funding and are selling B2B. Near is from 2022. They're from Northwestern University. They're doing tech coaching for seniors. They've been just accepted into an accelerator class in 2022 and are on their way. Rendeavor, you heard a little about virtual reality. GoGo Grandparent, I think Justin is here somewhere. There he is. Hey, Justin. Is a front-end phone interface that goes with ride-sharing apps, so that you don't have to have a smartphone or the ability to use a smartphone to use some of these applications. And then John's here from Forest Labs, which during the pandemic realized that students were not getting any time in science labs. And so he designed a virtual one where the kids could go to school and do their science labs virtually online. And even now that they're back in the labs, I think you're still finding a lot of places where this is a good thing. I also loved the fact that their design recognized that they were living in an environment of not perfect connectivity at all times, and had to recognize that challenge and overcome that. Just fantastic job. And so in closing, I just want to say thanks to everybody who's been involved. It's been quite a 10 years. We look forward to many more years. And with that, I think I'll pass this off to Marie, and we're going to hear from some of our past finalists. Thank you.